All right, folks, we did a Q&A a little bit earlier via Instagram, but we've had some requests. Sounds like you guys would like a little bit longer form, so we're going to translate this over to a YouTube video where we're going to go through and answer some questions that you guys had about over-the-counter tag sales in the state of Idaho. I got my good friend Brady Miller here. I asked him to join me today so that he can answer some of these questions. You don't have to listen to me drone on. So he's going to take about half of them. All the good questions I gave to Brady.
You did. You gave me the fun ones. The ones I'm actually excited about.
Yeah. So with that, I'll jump in. First question, is Idaho antelope worth putting in for? I'm already in for Montana and Wyoming. So this upcoming sale date, December 10th, is the online sale date for over-the-counter deer and elk general season tags. So there are not over-the-counter antelope tags that are available this coming December 10th. Really what you would have to do is apply for those when the controlled drawings come open. And saying that, in Idaho, in order to apply or to buy an over-the-counter license, you have to buy a $185 non-resident hunting license. You can then apply for deer, elk, and antelope in the controlled draw, or you can apply for one of those once-in-a-lifetime species like moose, sheep, or mountain goat. So in my opinion, I do think Idaho is a good antelope state. If you're already in for Montana and Wyoming, it depends, I guess, on your chances of what you think you're going to draw. Wyoming is pretty predictable depending on the number of points that you've got. It's a preference point state. Montana, that depends on the archery tag, right? If it's an archery tag, it's really good odds. Rifle tags are obviously harder to draw. I guess my opinion would be, I think you should buy the Idaho hunting license, try to pick up a deer and elk tag, and then, whether you do or you don't, I would plan on applying for those controlled hunt drawings when those open up in the spring. So that'd be my advice to you. It sounds like you're a pretty avid antelope hunter. Antelope are awesome. I would add Idaho to the list. So that's my answer to that question. Did I get it all?
Yep, go hunting.
Yeah, go hunting.
Might as well. Never know when you're going to draw a tag.
That's it.
All right, here's my first one. Applying as a group of 5. Any recommendation on units for mule deer rifle non-resident? And unfortunately, this one's kind of hard to answer because I don't know exactly what all 5 of you are looking for in terms of experience. So that's the first thing I would look at. Are you guys looking at a backpack, gnarly, going really steep and deep like I could do on a mountain hunt? Or do you want more of a family wall tent camp, base camp going out every single day? You want to see a lot of deer, you want to hunt some more open country, or do you want to go thicker? Or, it just depends on, I guess, what you're looking for in an experience. So my units will probably be different than your units. But what I would suggest to do a group of 5, it's going to be hard for you probably to all 5 get tags. So you might want to look at some of those units that don't sell out quickly. And basically, you can find those a lot easier if you just go on filtering and don't crank your trophy potential all the way up. Sure, those aren't always the best units. So don't always use that as like, hey, trophy potential means it's going to be the best unit. But maybe try to find something that's a little bit hidden under the radar, that, you can go central Idaho, you can go northern Idaho. Some of that thicker country is going to probably be one of those units that aren't going to sell out as quickly. And that way you could get all 5 of you could get some tags. Otherwise, you could kind of jump on, Go Hunt maps in combination with your filtering research to figure out the terrain style that you're looking for. I do that in all the states I apply for just to figure out, hey, is this glassable terrain? Is this terrain I can hike in and get away from people? So I'd probably start with some of those little combinations of using filtering, reading some unit profiles, jumping into maps, and then just trying to find out the criteria that you really want to hunt for your group of 5, whether it's 5 of your friends, maybe it's family, whatever it may be. Just figure out what style of hunt you want to go on and just go from there.
Yeah, good advice. And it's hard to get tags as a group because there's not really an avenue for people to apply for over-the-counter tags to buy those as a group. So that makes good sense to look for those ones that don't sell out typically.
Yeah.
If you actually all 5 want to have tags.
Mm-hmm. And that's always the hardest part about this tag sale date is you can't apply as
we'll get into
groups.
That.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right, next question. Should I drive to Idaho and try to buy a tag in person at a game and fish office, or should I try to do the online option? There were several questions that were kind of in the same vein. People asking, are my odds better of getting a tag that I want if I actually show up to Idaho, a game and fish office, and try to purchase there in person? I've not done that, so I can't speak to you firsthand about actually going up, being in person, and trying to purchase a permit. I can tell you that the rumor mill is that people that showed up in person, waited in line, and tried to get permits typically had much better chances or odds of actually getting the permit that they wanted. At least, a permit that might have been within their top 5 or 10 choices. So I would tell you, if you have the option to go to Idaho, I think it makes good sense. I think you have a better chance of getting the permit that you want versus the online option. I can tell you that my own personal experience last year, I had one of the lowest random numbers in the queue online that I've ever had since they went to this system. And my top 10 elk zones were already gone. Whereas previous years, I had a higher number and a couple of those areas were still there. So it does seem to me that there's something going on, and it's probably that people are actually going in person and they're buying out those better zones before I really even get a chance in the queue. So I would tell you, if you live close, if you can afford to take the day off or 2 days off, fly to Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a buddy, it's a little hidden gem.
Yeah, buddy who lives there.
I'm not going to say it outright, but if you got a buddy that lives there, they might be able to buy a tag for you in person. It's worth exploring.
Yeah, I just want to touch on this too. So last year I did an article. I haven't found this information yet for 2023 to get those numbers, but basically there's a breakdown of Idaho non-resident general season purchase day by sales channel. So this article, you can look it up on GOHUNT's website, but I'll get those numbers to you right now. So internet sales last year on this day, 77% of them, so that's 26,000. Vendors, so that's like not Idaho Fish and Game offices, like whatever other licensed sales channels.
Sportsman.
Yeah. 15% of the tag sales were sold through those. So that's 5,000 of those. Idaho Fish and Game offices only accounted for 4% of the sales, 1,300. And then telesales on the phone was 4% at 1,600. So you can see right there that there's a lot more customers obviously using the internet because not everyone can drive to Idaho to pick up a tag. But if you can do one of these other methods, most likely because there's less people doing it, you have a better chance of actually picking up.
It is interesting as you look at this. So you don't have 20, so that you have 2020 to 2022. You can see an increasing percentage of permits being sold through vendors.
Yep.
Which tells me that more people are picking up to the fact that it is a better chance of actually getting the zone or the unit, if you're talking deer, that you actually want.
And you did touch on like flying to Idaho. I know it sounds crazy, but if you want a permit bad enough and you want to hunt Idaho, make it worthwhile.
A vacation.
All right. So here's another one for me. Best strategy to try to get a tag with a friend. I know we're going to touch on this one a lot, but it is really difficult to get a tag with a friend. As we stated earlier, with the question about the group of 5, you might want to look at different units that aren't going to sell out. You can utilize a strategy I'll mention here. You can have your computer open and log in before 10 a.m. And you can also log in on your phone and log in, and then whatever gets the highest number, you continue through with that. But it's always hard to check out on a phone. You never know if your credit card information is all saved and correctly. So I always recommend trying to do it on a computer, really fast Wi-Fi. Like, don't just, do people have dial-up anymore?
No, I don't think so.
Not
even where I'm from.
But I just think if I have the best Wi-Fi connection possible, I don't do anything that morning. I sit there, and your friend's also sitting there, and you both are trying to get a tag. Hopefully, you both get a random number that's close to each other, and then you can easily jump in and pick up a tag. And you can also see those real time once you actually get in, how many permits are left for elk or deer. But just try to pick a unit together that you can hunt. That's not going to be ones that sell out. So jump into filtering ahead of time. Make that 5-10 list unit. Maybe even go longer than that because these units will sell out. And try to figure out then best plan of attack. But it's hard with 2 people.
There really is no way, because it's totally random. So you and your buddy, you both logged into your computers at 10 a.m. You're both going to get random numbers, and there's no way to say. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's completely random.
Yeah, I've logged in before, like an hour beforehand, and got a way worse number than someone who logged in 5 minutes beforehand. And then I've done the opposite, where I logged in, 15 minutes before 10 a.m. And, it's just random. There's no real strategy to it, and 2 people are not going to probably get the same random number next to each other, but you can both hopefully get a tag.
I would say if you really wanted to go with a buddy, probably the best thing you could do is just show up, the 2 of you together, and
Yeah.
be in line next to each other and have all of your hunts lined out and figured out and run down through the list of what's available and just try to buy one right after the other. But that, I mean, you would have to be there in person.
Be there in person, yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully they have the kinks worked out this year, huh?
Yeah, let's hope.
This is along the same question. I mean, how can you get a tag, OTC tag for a group application? Very similar question, but I guess I would just add that you cannot purchase over-the-counter deer or elk tags as a group, which is, to me, one of the major downfalls of this process. My opinion, I think they should just go to a draw. It's already a draw anyway, essentially. You're going to log in, you're going to get a random number in a queue. You're going to wait till your name, your number comes up, and then you're able to get in to look to see what permits are available and then try to purchase those. And I think they give you, I want to say 10, 15 minutes to check out with the tags that you want to buy. To me, it's not really fair, in my opinion. You got folks that work jobs, you got long haul truckers, you got people that have office jobs, you have people that work construction, whatever it might be. I just think it's not completely fair to everybody across the board. Not everybody can be logged onto the computer. Not everybody can go to Idaho. So I don't really like the system that much. I actually think they should change it. It's essentially a draw anyway. Just make it a draw and then give people the option to apply as a group if they want to.
Yeah, you could have a family of whatever, 3-5 people been hunting together for so long.
I mean, two would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, at least two, right? Like, I get you want to have more people have the opportunity to go hunting, but like, there's a lot of people that want to go hunting with a buddy.
And then when you think about elk, how hard is it to get out an elk by yourself?
It's really hard.
So you want a buddy to probably go with and have a tag, and then you could double up.
Really tough. So I guess I don't know if I answered that question completely, but might be just a plug to the the powers that be at Idaho Game and Fish. Just make it a draw. It's a draw.
Yeah. This question. This one's kind of hard for me to answer. What units have you noticed sell out the fastest for deer? And we always say it in the podcast, like, help the people, give out information, and do all that. But this is kind of one of those ones where I'm going to probably hold back on it. I have screenshots of all the ones that sell out really quickly. But I think if you want to know which ones sell out the fastest, jump on there, if you can, obviously, like we said, if you're a long haul trucker or something like that, you can't jump on here. That way it would be good to give this information up. I don't want to blow up units for other people. So when you're logged in and you will, get in the queue, you'll start to see which ones are selling out the quickest. I don't know. I don't feel right giving out that information and blowing it up for everyone.
I think that's okay to say. I mean, there are ways to do it. I bet you could do a Google search, or you could jump in your insider account and filter by something like harvest success or trophy potential, or look at 4-pointer better. There are tools that exist for you to kind of fine tune it. And then, I mean, again, like, the ones that sell out the fastest doesn't necessarily mean it's like the best, right?
Yeah.
The best, I would say, is the one that you can put the most time and effort into, the one that's closest to home that you can scout, in my opinion. So it's not really a blanket. You can't throw a blanket over it, I guess.
No, because I like some units that are left over for a long time that people don't pick up. They're really great. So it's like, it just depends. I don't think you have to worry about that too much, but just have a plan in place, because maybe your one tag you want to get is going to sell out. So get those 5 units, get those 10 units researched ahead of time. That way you have a plan in place for...
Yeah, I would say have 10 at least. Mm-hmm. The likelihood of getting your top 5 is pretty slim. I haven't been able to do it. So.
I'm banking on a low number this year. Maybe I'll finally get the unit I want.
Okay, I'm going to jump down to this one. Is this a good way for me to get my older dad into Western hunting without waiting on points? So, for those of you that might not be aware, most of the Western states utilize a point system, whether it's a bonus point or a preference point system, to allocate permits through a drawing. Some preference points, true preference point states like Colorado, you can kind of predict when you're going to draw. Those are true preference point states, meaning the people with the most points that apply for any given hunt are going to draw the permits. This, in my opinion, if you haven't been playing that game, you haven't been purchasing points in a state like Wyoming or Colorado or Utah for that matter, I think this is a good opportunity to get somebody into hunting. We've already kind of talked, you're not going to be guaranteed the permit that might be the best for you, but there are a lot of units, there's a lot of opportunities where you can pick up a permit over the counter on December 10th and get a chance to go hunting. So I would say yes. If if you're new to hunting, if you haven't been playing the points game, I think Idaho would be right near the tip top of the list as far as opportunities to get involved in Western big game hunting. So I would say do your research. Now's the time to do it. You got, what is today, the 6th, 5th?
Yeah, today's the 6th.
You got, 4th. Today's the
Fourth.
4th. There you go.
Today's the 4th.
I lost 2 days, but you've got some time. So it doesn't take a ton of time, but I would sit down and really look at filtering, look at your insider account, look at the type of terrain that you're wanting to hunt, especially if you got a dad that's older. There is some milder terrain in the state of Idaho. So do your research right now and try it. It's a great opportunity to pick up a permit. I know that everybody in the office, I think I'll be here that day, maybe the 10th. I think we're having a little party. We're all going to get together and sit around our computers and see what number we get. But yeah, we're all going to be playing the game. So I think you ought to too.
And there's also whitetail opportunities too. So if you just want to get into Western hunting, but you still want to hunt, just there's whitetail for it as well. So you don't have to do the mule deer, you don't have to do the elk if you're, older dad wants to get into that Western hunt. Still a Western hunting experience hunting a whitetail. So it could be a fun opportunity to look at too. All right, what is your first filter when looking for a mule deer tag? So the way I like to weed things down a lot, to make it just really quickly, is I'll look at trophy potential, because I like to hunt and try to harvest an older, mature deer. But keep in mind, trophy potential doesn't always mean that's the best unit. You can filter trophy potential in the middle and still know there's probably outliers in every single unit. You can still probably find a really big deer. But the other ones that on top of that I like to look at, I like to go up to the top on filtering on the web. I like to sort either by buck-tail ratios, or I'll look at also the percentage of 4-point or better that are harvested in the state of Idaho, and kind of use that as a slight gauge, because that means, maybe there's potentially a little bit more older age class deer, but I don't really give a lot of weight into it, but it'll help me just analyze those units really quickly to figure out, is it worth jumping into maps and kind of figuring out that unit a little bit more. I don't put a lot of emphasis on harvest success, and then every now and then I'll,
Why
manipulate.
not?
If I see a low harvest success, and it's not going to scare me away, dude, I'd go in that unit, because I'm going to hunt as hard as I possibly can. And I don't say like, if harvest success is 30%, that's a bad unit. Well, I'm like, maybe people were passing up a lot of younger age class deer because they're trying to get an older deer, or just maybe people were just not getting out and hunting hard, or maybe the year had a really bad storm system. So I feel like I could, since I have a lot of years of hunting experience, I'm not going to be scared away by low harvest successes.
So you're not scared away of it, but you probably do pay attention.
I do pay attention to it and look at
the have high harvest success.
Yeah, I look at the trends. If it's obviously been tanking severely over a 5-year trend, then I might worry about it. But if it's just an average harvest success or something low, and it's always been low, I've killed a lot of good deer in those type of units before too. So it's just like what type of hunt I'm looking for, and harvest success doesn't scare me away.
Sure.
Sometimes low public land percentage, that will scare me away, because obviously I need a little bit more public land to be able to hunt. So look at that one, usually a little bit more than a will harvest success.
Gotcha. All right, next question. Can you explain the elk zones and the strategies for applying? So in Idaho, these over-the-counter tags that are going on sale, they're going to be broke up into elk zones. So you might have a couple units, maybe even a few units that are located within a zone. And the individual zones have different names like Palisades or Bear River, Lemhi. There's different names that go with these different elk zones. So when you buy that permit, say I buy a Lemhi zone over-the-counter archery tag, it means I can hunt any unit within that Lemhi zone. So that's kind of how it works. When you're within your filtering on your insider account, you can actually look at the zone. So if you go down and you hit the select season drop down in filtering, once you have elk and Idaho selected, you can click on over-the-counter archery elk early, for example, and it's going to bring up the map of all the units that are the over-the-counter, and you're actually going to see them in zones. So that can kind of help you understand like what units are in what zone, what part of the state they're in. Strategies for applying. So this isn't really applying. These are over-the-counter sales, if you will. You basically are going to log in at 10 a.m. on the 10th. Your name is going to be put randomly in a queue, and then you're going to wait until your name comes up. And at that point, if there are permits remaining for the zone that you want to hunt, you'd have the opportunity to purchase it. So you want to make sure that you've got the zones figured out before you actually get ready on December 10th. You want to make sure that you've got probably your top 10, if you will. There's a high likelihood that when you get in and actually get a chance to buy, maybe your top 5 aren't there. So you definitely want to go further than you might think in picking zones. When it comes to applying, they do have controlled hunts in Idaho. That drawing is later in the spring. If you buy this $185 hunting license to try to purchase an over-the-counter permit, you could then apply for controlled hunts. And like I said, that's a true random drawing in the state of Idaho. There's no point systems, no bonus points, no preference points. So you're not penalized for not having applied year over year for a lot of years. You can actually just apply and hope you get lucky. So I would say plan on buying the hunting license, try to buy an over-the-counter permit, have your top 10 at least elk zones picked out before you even get started on the 10th. And then, whether you buy or you don't, plan on applying in the control draw later in the spring.
I'll add something to that quick. Make sure if you haven't applied in Idaho before, or I guess again, we're not applying, but this is a common term. If you haven't done this system before in Idaho, log in ahead of time, create an account, make sure all that stuff is golden. You can get in your account. Don't wait until the morning of the tag sale, December 10th, to do that. And then also realize that this is going to take you a long time to get through. I have waited before for my random number to get called up, literally 3 hours into the morning until I could actually pick up a tag. So I'm constantly staring at the one screen, trying to work, trying to do things. Yes, I work on my computer, so it's a little bit easier. So if you don't have that ability to do that, realize you're gonna have to set a chunk of your day away. It's not just like, oh, hey boss, I have to pause for 15 minutes and try to get an Idaho tag. It's probably gonna take you 3 hours to try to get an Idaho tag.
Could, yeah.
So make sure you log in ahead of time too. So either 45 minutes early, 30 minutes early, 5 minutes early, but log in before 10 a.m. because if you log in after 10 a.m., you're just thrown to the back of the list and it's not going to be randomized. You're just at the end of the line.
Yep.
So log in ahead. Yeah.
Plan ahead.
Best of luck.
Best of luck.
What's the best way for me and my dad to put a fall hunt together? So obviously we're talking about this Idaho non-resident deer and elk tag sale date. I would definitely start there. Try to get a tag together. You have to have 2 computers next to each other, or 2 phones, or whatever it may be, or go to Idaho to try to get a tag and be in line together. If you don't get a tag there, there's a bunch of other leftover tag opportunities for these non-resident tags that Idaho will go through, and we always do more articles and social content around there to let you guys know when those are and how many tags are available, so you have other opportunities there to pick up a tag. And then like Joe mentioned earlier, you can also apply in the controlled draw in Idaho to try to get a hunt put together for your dad and yourself. But there's a lot of different ways to do it. I would highly recommend, if you're thinking about Idaho, try to get a tag right now. Do your research like we talked about earlier in this video, how to use Insider to find one of these opportunities, and using filtering and then using GOHUNT maps to even dive in further. But there is a way for you guys to pick up a hunt together, and just hope you get a really good random number right now.
Yeah.
But there's other opportunities as well if you don't get it. So don't worry if you don't have an opportunity right now. There usually is a lot of turn back tags, and the same process applies again when they do these turn back tags again.
You may not both get permits.
Yeah, and the same unit.
Realize that you might end up, getting your old man a tag and then just helping him out, which is the right thing to do. Just saying.
Good one, Joe.
Just kidding.
Was that a note to your kids?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, have 10 years. This isn't really directly related to Idaho OTC, but I thought it'd be kind of interesting to answer. So it says, I have 10 years of old intel from the 90s. So I guess 2024?
Yeah, we're in 2024 right now.
We're further than 10 years from the 90s. You're dating yourself, girl. You're like me. I think the 90s was still 10 years ago. With that, he said, how do I look at spots? Is it still available or valuable today? So if you have intel, say it's 10 years old or you got it from the 90s, is that information still valid today? My opinion would be
yes and no.
Yes and no. So if it had 10 years ago or in the 90s, if it had food, water, cover, and it held animals, and you knew it was a good spot from this intel that you got, it probably still has those standard components of what good habitat is for whatever species you're hunting. So I think it's worth looking at. Also, though, in saying that, things change. So you may have had a burn blow through, you may have had a road or a trail punched in that has increased the amount of access into the area. Wolves, yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, there's a lot of different factors that can change areas, and areas aren't good year over year over year. I would say typically though, I mean, I find elk in, similar types of areas. It feels like I can go back year after year and you can typically find some elk, but sometimes things happen. I'm thinking of an example where I live in southern Utah. You have an area that had a very large fire that changed the entire landscape, not just for that unit, but surrounding units. It actually pulled animals from surrounding units that, pulled into that burn because the food is better, the feed's better. So there's a lot of different components, but I would say if you have good intel, it's worth checking out. Obviously, it was good for a reason back then. It's probably still pretty decent, but you'd want to do some scouting, do some map work. Think about all those different factors like fire, access, drought, all those things that can kind of impact it. So I would say definitely look at it, but, do your research.
Yeah, I might just jump on that too. You could utilize terrain analysis tool, try to figure out, okay, what was the terrain like back then, why it was good, and then maybe if it's changed now based on, maybe a burn came through there and totally, moved wildlife around or wolf, where is that same sort of terrain that was good that I got intel from my buddy in the state as well that you're kind of hunting, or in a neighboring unit, and try to like match up. The train had all this stuff back in the 90s. Where is the same sort of terrain located now in the state, and they could maybe potentially find a spot similar to that all the right ingredients, like I said, cover water.
You can use aerial imagery as well. That'd probably one of the first things I do is just go back and look at that area year over year on aerial imagery just to see what the landscape looks like if it's changed.
Yep.
But I'd check it out. What do you got?
How do we find which units are best for glassing? So this is when literally it's not really an easy process, but it's going to be a lengthy process to try to do, especially if you're going to try to do this right now for this December 10th tag sale date. But I would jump into GOHUNT Maps, go right into 3D, start analyzing some of those units you might have looked at earlier on filtering. So try to have that list where you're talking about those units, 5 of them, 10 of them, 15 of them, and then jumping onto maps and just kind of like scrolling around on 3D, try to figure out, does it have good glassing? If you need good glassing, because that's the style hunt that you're looking for, and it's really thick timber, realize if it looks like it's going to be thick timber on the map, it probably is thick timber in person. So you might want to cross that unit off, or maybe find other areas in that unit that potentially has it. So I would just scan around on 3D and literally start dropping waypoints. Even though you're not going to be hunting a unit right now, I do the same thing every single year when I'm applying, and actually have waypoints marked on places I'm thinking about going into for the next year. So just sitting around when you're bored, you can do it on your phone on 3D, you can do it on the computer, and just start scanning around. Try to see if it meets that terrain that you're looking for. Is it open enough, or is it too thick? And then move on and look at something else. But I always remember to come back and kind of look at things a second time, because you might be, not in the right mindset for a bunch of e-scouting, and then the next time you actually find some cool little hidden gem on your map. But it's basically just scanning around, looking at the unit, and trying to analyze it for different angles to figure out if it's best for glassing. And looking at some of that terrain, you can look at, different vegetation types when you're on a map, and eventually start to hone in, like, okay, these are aspens, this is oak brush, these are PJs, or these are just rock field, and I can actually glass in it, and it has a bunch of high alpine terrain. So play around.
Yeah, I would say also think about the time of the year that you're trying to hunt. So if you're archery hunting, and you want to hunt high country, classic alpine deer or elk or whatever it might be, you want to think about the time of the year and where the animals are going to be based on the tag that you have.
So that's when you can use elevation bands to try to figure out those high
think about what makes good glassing: topography and openness, right? Or a mix. So I think that's...
You could turn on the wildfire layer, look at burns and stuff like that, because then it's going to be a little bit
for
open.
sure. Good tip. I'm glad you threw that one in at the end.
Oh, so hopefully people passed over it and they'll get my hot tip.
I fished that one out of you.
Yeah, every now and then you get me to give a good tip.
Okay, short of reading every unit summary, so every unit profile that exists with your insider account, how should a newcomer pick a unit? I would push them towards filtering. So basically, your insider account has this filtering system. It allows you to filter by things like trophy potential, harvest success, public land percentage, Also filter by season. What else am I missing?
Sort by buck-doe ratios, sort by harvest success.
Harvest success, 4-pointer better, 6-pointer
Yeah.
better for bulls. All those filters are really built in and pretty streamlined. You can essentially do a year's worth of research in 10 minutes,
It is,
to be honest. So I would push it towards those filters. I would look at things like harvest success. I mean, I know that it's like you said, I don't necessarily pay attention to low harvest success. It doesn't deter me from buying a tag in a unit, but it also, I do look at high harvest success, especially trends. And you can look within your account year over year, those 5-year trends of harvest success. I think it's worth looking at. I think public land percentage is definitely worth looking at. For me, that's one I look at quite a bit because I don't really like the private public boundary line dance. Just doesn't feel great. It's not a lot of fun. So I like public land units because I'm mostly DIY guy. So I would say look at that. Yeah, I would just say use the filters. Dive in and use all the different tools that are available to you within your insider account. Eliminate a bunch of country, maybe find a few that look intriguing, and then dive into the unit profiles for those specific units. Make sure that you read the comments at the bottom of those unit profiles. There's always hidden gems and little nuggets that are tucked away in those individual comments at the bottom of the unit profiles. But I would say, process of elimination. Find some that look interesting based on your filters, and then dig into those specifically. We got one more final question. Omar wanted to know where we should move.
Oh, if we could move.
If we could move right now to any state in the West for good opportunities to hunt elk and deer, where is it?
Wyoming.
I concur.
They treat the residents the best.
And the non-residents the worst.
Yeah, there's really the most resident, non-resident skewed state out there. Resident can hunt the same phenomenal deer unit every single year.
Yeah.
Non-resident takes 10 plus years to draw it.
Yeah. So I'd say Wyoming. Over-the-counter elk, over-the-counter deer. Basically hunt, a giant swath of country in Wyoming. You can also hunt wilderness areas as a resident. Go to non-resident can't. I would put Idaho right up there as well, though.
Yep, I would too.
And then maybe Montana. But those would be my top 3.
Top 3. Yeah, that little... It's not a triangle, is it?
Not really.
Square? Octagon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of those states would be phenomenal to move to.
Yep. So I guess we should pack our bags and move to Wyoming.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, it'd be so great.
Gosh.
And the draws are random.
Yeah.
So Wyoming residents, completely random draw. And you can...
Same with Idaho.
No point system. Same with Idaho. You can kind of pick and choose your own adventure.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, so that wraps it up for Q&A for Idaho OTC. Those go on sale December 10th at 10 a.m. You want to make sure that you plan ahead and that you are ready to go with all your information when that deadline and time hits. We have an article.
Yep, just Tactics for Idaho's 2025 non-resident deer and elk tag sale date. You can just search that on GOHUNT website to find that and look through the whole process. I have screenshots that help walk you through everything. Tips and tactics about how to get a tag, and then you can also read all the comments below or leave a comment if you have a question as well. But start doing your research now because December 10th is coming up quick.
Yeah, and it's a great refresher. Even though I do it every year, I always read through it.
Yeah.
So with that, good luck. Hope you get a low random number.
Best of luck.